This Amateur Radio Roundtable is brought to you in part by ICOM America.
Well, hello and welcome to the Amateur Radio Roundtable, everyone. I'm happy to greet you tonight. This is Katie, WY7YL, here in Sundance, Wyoming, where it is a balmy 5 degrees, and we're enjoying winter out here. Really happy to have you join us here on W5KUB.com. The show is every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Central Time. And if you're listening on the international famous shortwave station WBCQ in Monticello, Maine, welcome. We're really glad that you can join us with us this evening. And if you're interested, feel free to join us on W5KUB.com. Click on the live video and chat button, and you can participate in our chat room during the show. Let's see. There is a sorry guys. There is a chat, but there's a button right above here for Facebook. So if you're not part of our Facebook group already, please decide to join us. We've got a lot happening there. Our Facebook group has been growing every week, and we like to talk about all kinds of different activities that are happening. Show off our shack pictures, and also let everybody know when we're on the air so that we can make some contacts and hang out together. So speaking of that, we have tonight joining us is, of course, our very own... Oh, what are you doing in the middle?
I don't know. That didn't work out right.
We have Tom Mellon, W5KUB, who just surprised us there. And Martin F. Jew, the founder of MFJ Enterprises.
Hello, everyone.
And Dave Kassler, KE0G from Ask Dave, will be joining us in a little while. So... glad to have you guys here tonight. Sorry, I had a little bit of a hiccup there. My brain is not completely working yet.
God, let me see.
From the flu here.
Let me see if I can add Dave to the call. Stand by. Dave's calling.
Martin F. Jew, the founder of MF Enterprises.
Hey, Dave.
Hello, everyone.
Dave.
KE0G from Ask Dave.
I think we're getting feedback from you, Dave. Did you have the show up?
Here tonight. Sorry, I had a little bit of a hiccup there. My brain is not completely working yet.
Dave, can you hear me, Dave?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, when we brought you on there, we were getting the show audio coming back, but it sounds like it's cleared up now. So, let me see. You kind of came in here at the last minute. Let me see if I added you correctly. I don't know if I did. No, I didn't. Let's hang up and add you back into the show, okay? I'll call you.
Okay.
Quite a bit of snow here, which of course is normal for Wyoming winter in my neck of the woods up in the northeast corner, but we've had upwards of about a foot of snow just Saturday and Sunday together. I don't know. Oh, and there's Dave. He's joined us.
Yeah, we got Dave in here. Let me see if I can get me in here too.
Hello, Martin.
That'll probably work right there. Okay. All right. Well, great. We got Dave in there now, and we've got Martin. We've got Katie, and Katie was out last week. Katie caught the flu from Dwayne, or Dwayne caught it from her. Are both of you guys doing okay now?
We're getting there. I'm still kind of gross. If you guys probably saw me on the pre-show coughing and what have you, but definitely a lot better. Last week was rough with the fever a couple of days and just miserable, but definitely on the mend and feel very lucky that it wasn't worse. It could have been a lot worse, and Dwayne got rid of it in like 2 days. He didn't really get the flu. It was just kind of a gross cold for him. So we lucked out that way and managed to not give it to my mom either. So I'm really happy about that.
Well, that's good. So let's see now. I've already asked you, you don't take the flu shot. Did your mom take the flu shot?
She does, and she does all that good stuff. And,
good.
I think Dwayne might have gotten one at work, but I can't take any live virus shots like that because of some of the medications I take.
Yeah.
So it's a risk for me all the time wherever I go. I have to always be careful not to get germs. So I live with hand sanitizer in my purse, and at the Ham Fest I usually have one that's attached to my belt so I can constantly clean my hands and just do my best to fight getting any kinds of infections.
Yeah, well, Kathy and I kind of stay in here. We don't get out a lot because there's so much flu going around here. Let's see, Martin, how you doing down there in Starkville, Mississippi?
Oh, we're doing fine. It's just really cold outside. It's in the 20s, and I think it's going to get down in like 7 or 8 tonight. Whole town shut down.
Oh man, I tell you, we had some ice 2 days ago, and then last night we got about 2 inches of snow, and I'm hearing the temperature is going to be -5 in the morning here. So they've already closed all the schools and everything here.
My wife was supposed to fly back tomorrow, but from Atlanta.
Oh, she'll probably make
It's a
it.
direct flight.
Yeah,
No, I think she has to change.
Yeah, she'll
Yeah, I've
make
heard
it.
the flights down south, everything with the storm rolling in that way. It's just everything. All the flights have been really screwed up down that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, Martin, I know y'all had some snow down there. Did you close early, or do you guys work all day?
Well, we tried to work all day. There weren't very many of us, but we closed early enough where they could see when they're driving home, so they wouldn't slip off the road. You know, some of the people would drive 40, 50 miles to get here
Is that
to
right?
work.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a long ways
Wow.
to drive. Well, I know some of the roads have just been terrible down here. Some of them are okay, but some are really bad there. Hey, let me jump over to Dave, see what Dave's been up to. Dave, how you doing out there? Let's see, Dave, you're in Ridgeway, Colorado, man. You must have snow out there, right?
We have a little snow on the ground. It's 26 degrees right now. And if anything, we're running way behind on our snow. It's going to be kind of rough getting water to everybody in the summer. Martin, just wanted to let you know I did get that extension to the cobweb antenna and put it on. It was the subject of last week's video, and I'm impressed. That is one amazing antenna.
Well,
So,
that's great.
yeah, it's good stuff. This week, the video I'm working on today is for the SDR Play receiver. And so I did the shooting today. Now I've got to put it all together in the editor and get it out. And
Did Richard send you one about TR switches for the SDR Play, so you can use it as a pan adapter?
my radio is a Yaesu FTDX 3000, and it has an RF output on the back, which goes straight into the little radio here. So it keeps any transmitted stuff from going into it. I do have also, and was using it, and we'll mention it in this video, an MFJ, I think it's an 1886.
Oh, yeah.
The receive-only loop antenna, which works really well. I can receive on that about as well as I can on the cobweb or my vertical. So, yeah, it's been kind of MFJ week for me.
And I told Randy Nash about the sun problem on the case, so he's working on that.
Yeah, I put a little piece of duct tape over it when I put it back up yesterday. I don't know, it's just the sun does funny things, that we don't expect.
He's going to try painting it to see if that'll help.
Yeah, good idea. The video that I did prior to that was a video about the Micro-BITX. And for some reason, it's a little bit beyond me, I got some pushback on that when I said I didn't like the fact that not only was it a general coverage receiver, it's also a general coverage transmitter. And people can transmit anywhere, not just on the ham bands. That I can understand the ham bands, but anywhere. They could interfere with craft. They could interfere with long-distance emergency communications. I mean, they could get on anything. And I said on there, in my humble opinion, and you know how humble my opinions are, that was just unacceptable. And what I think that every person who responded vigorously was clearly libertarian. They did not want anybody having a rule that would stop somebody from doing something stupid.
All right. Well, hey, Dave, we're going to do that section. We're going to talk about that and let you clarify
okay.
everything after Martin and I have a segment here after a while. So let's go ahead and let's get back on schedule here. We've got some shack pictures. Katie's got shack pictures. We're going to go through some shack pictures, and then I've got Martin here. We're going to talk about just a lot of things: operations, operating, home brewing, all kinds of stuff. And then we'll talk about after that. We'll talk about the Micro-BITX. So, Katie, are you ready to talk about the what are we talking? The shack pictures, right?
Shacks. Yeah, let's show off some shacks.
Yeah, let's see.
She said 3 times fast. Ah.
Let's see if I can find them here.
All right, let me put my reading glasses on here. Okay.
All right. Okay. And I got my notes out too.
Okay.
Coming up, shack pictures. Here we go.
Oh.
I think this is the first one, Katie.
All right. Oh, there we go. Okay, our first one is with Phil Roberts, K8DXX out of Troy, Michigan. And here he's got a Flex 6300, the ICOM 7300, and an ALS 1300 amp.
Hey, real quick, Martin, what's that little thing here?
Yeah.
You see what I'm seeing?
Yeah. It's all right next to a Night Kit regenerative receiver.
Yeah.
It's on the top shelf on the right-hand side. That's white.
We're going to get to
Next
talk.
to-
We'll talk about old stuff like that later. But boy, that brings back memories there
It does.
on the top there. So go ahead, Katie. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's quite all right. That's good. It's fun when you can spot
Yeah.
some additional things. And let's see, Bill's also got another location at his second home in Sebring, Florida. And he's got a ICOM 7300 and the Ameritron ALS 600 amp down there. So he's able to operate from home and vacation. If he's smart, he should be in Florida right now instead of Michigan. It's probably a lot warmer.
Yeah, and look at there. There's an MF or a Ameritron product right there, boy. I tell you, I've always said if you're a ham, you're going to have one MFJ product somewhere in your shack, no matter where you are. All right.
Oh, yeah. I think it's impossible to not have some MFJ stuff in your shack. Okay, Brian Love, KC9KUH from Ellettsville, Indiana. He has got some neat stuff in there. He's got a Heathkit SA2040 antenna tuner along with the Drake B-line. It's got a Kenwood TS2000. It's also got the Drake L4B amplifier and a PowerMaster watt meter. So it's got a nice setup there, and it's nice and clean. I bet he cleaned up for us.
And he had more pictures too, but some of the people out there send me so many pictures, it would take the whole show. So we have to kind of, combine them at times here.
Yeah,
all right.
For sure. All right, now moving along to North Carolina with Ronald Parks, KN4GWB. In Hayesville, North Carolina. He's just got his license a couple months ago, so congratulations to you, Ronald. He's running a ICOM 7300. It seems to be the 7300 night here on the show. He's also got an Ameritron AL811A amp. He's got a couple of Yaesu FT7900Rs, and he's using a J-pole antenna and a 117-foot end fed for his HF operations. So not too shabby for a first setup there. What do you think?
Not shabby at all.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good for him.
It's nice.
That 7300 is a great rig for, any layer of the game you're at, whether you're brand new or into ham radio. All right, into there for a long time now. Okay, so now we're moving up to West Virginia with Eddie Crawford, W4WVA. He lives in Cross Lakes, and he's got a Hammerlin SP600. Also an SP200, an HQ120X. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe one of you guys can tell me.
It's an old receiver that was built before you were born.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains why I didn't know what it was. And Halicrafters SC71, the S77A, and SX73. Johnson Viking, Tech Triton 4, and Heathkit HW12A. So he's definitely got the older gear in there, and it looks like a nice setup. And
yeah, I remember those Heathkit single banders like at HW12 when it came out. Boy, everybody wanted one.
Oh, I bet.
I had a 20-meter version, HW32.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Brett on here just says, now there's some vintage stuff. Cool. All right, so now moving over western side of the country over to Issaquah, Washington with Mark White, KK0FFE. He's got the FT950 and a PR781 microphone. And nice compact setup there. He's got his login computer right there and a band chart going on. And looks like a couple other good things. He's got some handhelds back there, too. Can't quite see, but nice setup there in Washington. And moving on, we're going to see, here's Mike. Mike's in the chat room tonight. Mike DeVal, NX2U in Kylesford, Tennessee. Mike's got a Kenwood TS520 and a TS530S, TS690. He's also running some power with the Ameritron AL80B. He's got a Kenwood TS700A 2-meter all mode. There's a ICOM 706 Mark II in there, and he says, Mike says, I've got too many radios. If you showed them all tonight, it would take the entire show.
It would. It would. And we've shown some of his radios on the past shows, and he's got enough radios, believe me, that we could show one every week for the rest of the year. All right, who's next?
Big collection. All right, well, next is Ken Harris, W5MEU out of Odessa, Texas. And he's sitting at his station, and he's talking to you, Tom, on 40 meters in this photo.
He is. We've nearly every day we talk now since we started getting on, trying to get the group together. Now, he's got a pretty mean look on it here. I don't know why he's looking like that.
He does. He was making a serious contact with you. How's that?
I guess that's a serious picture there.
And so then also wow, look at that. That's beautiful. What a beautiful room he's got. Okay, so this is still Ken's shack, and he's got an IC 2100. He's using the KPC3 for packet. That's the Cantronics, isn't it? I think the KPC3, yeah. The
KPC3 for packet, Siltronics, yeah.
Siltronics 1011D on 10 meters. It's got an ICOM 720. He's got a Swan MK2 amp. It's also got a TS2000. He's got an Ameritron AL572 amp and an MFJ tuner.
Yeah.
So, and it looks like lots of books there. We've got a couple of shelves like that in the shack here full of
and a lot of monitors too.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. All right, so now here's Chuck. Okay, yep, just want to make sure I had my notes right. Chuck Horvath is WD8BXS out of Moundsville, West Virginia. It's another West Virginia. Cool. He's got he's got one of the new ones. He's got the ICOM 7610. No wonder he wanted to show off his shack. He's also running the Kenwood TL922 amp and the Dentron MT 3008 tuner, and he's also got the Yaesu FTM 400. I assume, Chuck, you're enjoying that new radio.
And we got another special picture, I think, of Chuck there.
Yeah,
Look at there.
Right.
Look at there.
And there is Chuck with a famous American musician, Earl Scruggs. And Chuck's the one with the banjo, and there's Earl Scruggs sitting on his couch with him. That's pretty cool. Is Earl a ham, or maybe they just know each other?
I don't know, but obviously they have a relationship there, and there's Chuck playing the banjo, and Earl Scruggs sitting there listening. Isn't that cool?
That's really cool. Yeah. Gotta love how ham radio brings people of all kinds of different backgrounds together, that's for sure. All right, so now we're moving on to Mike Jones, KM4TQU of Mapleton, Georgia. He's got the FT991, plus he's also got a 2-meter rig. Honey. Somebody's fighting. Sorry, I have cats fighting out in the other room. Yaesu mic and a Heil mic with a boom out there. So he is, again, got a nice little shack, and he's in there. It looks like he's got a nice workspace, too.
Yeah.
Pretty compact and can do some work and ham. And I see a soldering iron there, so you know he's doing some work. Okay. And let's see. We're moving on to Keith. KC8TCQ in Napoleon, Ohio. My home phone is ringing. Pardon me.
That's all right.
Let's see. I'm not going to answer it, though. They're going to have to hold out. Okay, so we are with Keith, and he's got the ICOM 706, the MFJ Versa Tuner 2, and he's running HRD for his rig control and digital modes, and the ICOM SP3 speaker and a rig blaster. So again, a nice little setup there. You can see it's got it running good. Moving over to Mississippi, Carl Noble, KA0IBF in Gulfport. He's got Swan gear with a matching speaker. It's also got a TS520 and a TS570 and a Heathkit keyer there. And looks like he's got some nice little setup there also. Yeah, there we go. I was trying to see what was on the top shelf. It looks like maybe the speaker.
It's got a monitor scope. Looks like a dual switch on the wall. I'm trying to see. There's a swan. Did we mention a swan?
I
think that's a swan on the bottom.
I didn't have the specific, just had that he had swan gear. So
yeah.
All right. Now, James Shaver, N2ADV. Any of you guys that have been active on the FT8 Experimenters group on Facebook, James is one of the main guys running that page on Facebook. He's been very active with FT8 and very helpful. He's got the Flex 6300 and an Elecraft K3/P3. It's also got a Helicrafters S38B. Got a couple of Gonset communicators, an AL811H amp, and the MFJ 989C tuner. Oh, and he's also got an FT817. So James has got a lot going on there in Clifton, New Jersey, and he's pretty regularly on the air, so you can't miss him, that's for sure. Very active ham. And now for the infamous Rhea Jareem, N2RJ. Rhea is a very active YL on the air and a very active ham out of Sussex, New Jersey. She's got the Flex 6700 and running a Power Genius XL amp, Flex Maestro with a green hair and rotor control and the Step IR controller. And that's a nice little setup. And Rhea is very regularly on the air and very active contester and DXer. And very active with the Flex group as well. And good friend. So it's neat to see her setup there.
And I was looking to see if she's in here. I don't see her. I see our friend Walter in there though. Okay, Rhea's always got a nice station. She keeps it very simple, but she's got a powerful station there and a really nice station.
She does, and she does some remote work, so she can, sits, when she commutes to New York to work, she's on remote and do some operating, and very active with the YLRL organization and all the YLs. So she does a great job with ham radio all around. All right, so in wrapping it up tonight is Justin Boquette. We don't have his call sign, but what he's got here is the Asus 757 GX2, the Palomar 75 amp, and a Motorola STS 2500 handheld. And he's also got a couple 11-meter rigs, so he's doing a variety of different things there. So thanks for sending that in, Justin, and thanks everybody for sending in your photos, and please continue to do so. If you guys still like this segment, we'll keep it going, and we appreciate you sharing your shacks with us.
Yeah, let's just keep the shack pictures coming in, guys, and so Katie can do them. We really would like for you to put your call on there and put a description. I think some of you guys are in a witness protection program because you just send me a picture, and I can't find you. I don't know what it is, so we may have made a few errors tonight reading that back. I guessed at some of the equipment, but anyway, give us a description and your call, and we'll try to get that on there. Hey, let me just say while we're talking about that too. Another thing, we've got Riley Hollingsworth with us on the show. Not tonight. He's gone to the ARRL meeting this week, but Raleigh will be back with us again soon, and we need questions. If you have FCC questions for Riley, he will get you the answers. He goes to the FCC, and if he doesn't know the answer, he'll ask and try to get you the answer on that. So post them in our Facebook group if you have a question for Riley, and post your shack pictures. And great job, Katie, on shack pictures and opening the show. And see, I'm trying to get this where I don't have to be here.
Yeah, it's not happening. But
Yeah. All right. So
well,
let's
say 73, everybody, and let you guys continue on, and we'll see you hopefully next week.
Okay, Katie, we'll talk to you later.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
All right.
Good seeing you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. So let's see. I want to bring. It's time to bring Martin in here, and we're going to get Martin into the show here. Everybody knows Martin, but I'm going to put his name up there anyway. I've got his name here somewhere. Martin. There we go. Got Martin's name up there. So everybody knows him. Of course, everybody knows Martin FQ. And if you look at his initials, they are MFJ. And this is Mr. MFJ there. So tonight is going to be a great night for everybody to talk to Martin and ask questions. I'll open the phone line up in just a minute. But one of the things I want to talk about tonight with Martin is just a little bit of everything. You know, ham radio from the 60s and you know, home brewing. There's a lot of little things that you can home brew that we built back, 50 years ago that are still great projects now, and they're easy to build. Operational deals, home brewing, antennas, just all kinds of things, and we want to talk about all that tonight. So, Martin, I showed you earlier in the show. I found your first receiver right there.
Yeah, that is it. The Nike Spaceman, a regenerative receiver, 2 bands, broadcast band and a shortwave band, and 3 tubes, AC/DC. Worked really good for a kid.
And you know what? I mean, it's a good receiver, but I think you told me you never made a contact with it. Is that right?
Well, that's right. I tried using that as my novice receiver, but it had a hand capacitive effect. And when you tune the signal in, you had to leave your hand on the band spread knob. If you moved it, the signal would disappear.
Yeah, it would go to another frequency. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Martin, I'm proud to have got my license back. I'll call it the old days, like you. You were about 4 years earlier than me, but I tell you, back then it was not like today. Let me show somebody what a typical station was back then. I think this is. Here's a typical station like Martin and I used back in the early 60s, guys. This was the ham station, and you'd build it. So, Martin, can you believe we talk to people on stuff like that?
I tell you, those were the days. That's a 15-watt Amico transmitter. It had, you can see the transformer.
Yeah.
Back on the back corner, it had a rectifier tube and a crystal oscillator. I think that was a 6V6 or 6L6.
Yeah, looks like it.
And to change bands, you had to unplug that coil, which is on the right-hand side. It's kind of red.
Yeah.
And then the frequency was determined by crystals, which is on the left-hand side, that little black rectangular spot on top.
And there are a couple crystals. There are a couple crystals laying on the table there by the key. And when we're talking about crystals, guys, that's what each one of those set the frequency that we were on. And how many crystals did you have, Martin?
Oh, I had maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah.
For 40 meters, which you could triple into the 15-meter band, but you operate at fixed frequency. And also in that picture, just the telegraph key that we used was the old J38 that you could buy on a war surplus market for, I forgot, like 50 cents.
Yeah. I think I had 3 or 4. I might have had one more crystal than you. I had 3 or 4, but it didn't make any difference because the people that answered us, they didn't have the same crystals we had. You'd just call and you'd tune the band to see who's calling you back, and they're on a completely different frequency. None of this up 5 or down 5 or anything like that. You just had to, by luck, find them because their crystals were different.
Yeah, and it made it really difficult when the band was real crowded.
Oh yeah.
But also in that picture, though, to the right of the Amico transmitter, that looks like a regenerative receiver.
Yeah.
And looks like and that looks like it has plug-in coils too.
It does. Yeah. So yeah, homebrew, that's what it looked like back then, and of course, man, when you think about the radios we have today, boy, don't you wish we had something like that back then? Just plug it in and talk anywhere in the world. It was a battle. It was a battle for us to talk to people.
Well, you're right, it was, but from little radios like that, we learned a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, Martin, you said your first radio was at Space Spanner there. My first radio, when I was probably 13 years old, what got me interested was this radio right here. And I want to tell you that's an old Zenith, and it had a shortwave band on it. And boy, I tell you, that thing it had some good audio, and it would pull signals in from all over the world, man. And that's what got me interested listening on that to become a ham. And I don't know whatever happened to that radio. I wish I had it today.
Well, a lot of radios were console radios that were stand-alone radios. We had a radio, not that big. It was a chef radio made by Philco. It was a cathedral style, and you had to hold the antenna wire in your hand in order to pick up any stations and listen to the broadcast band. Yeah. Radio back then, the broadcast radios were like TVs and satellite TVs that we have today. You listen to radio programs instead of watching it on video.
Well, a lot of us built our transmitters and receivers, but there was a lot of surplus stuff in the early 60s. And this is a common piece of equipment that many of us use, this little transmitter here. It's got a neat little VFO dial. If you look closely, this one's 40 meters. You can see the 7.1 and I think 7.2 on there. And this war surplus stuff really got a workout with ham radio operators in the 50s and early 60s.
Oh yeah, there were a lot of people converting those. That's the receiver.
Is that the receiver right there? They had a pair. One's a transmitter, and I think one's a receiver. And when sideband first came out, what was that first sideband rig that came out? It had the iTube in it.
Yeah, Centro Electronics. It was made from one of those.
Yeah,
as the VFO.
They had one of these in it as the VFO, and put a different faceplate on it, and it looked like part of a new radio.
Yeah. Those radios, you can see them in the old World War II airplanes, like the B-17s.
Yep.
That's what they used for communications back then.
Right. And then here's a ham that has actually set some of the surplus stuff up. Now, I think this is an ART-13 there on the left. I think that was also in the aircraft, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right.
That's 100. I think that's 100 watt. It had a couple 813s in it, and that was only 100 watt radio. But the thing about it is, all this surplus stuff, a lot of it would run on dynamotors. And if you look on the floor, that little cylinder thing down there is a dynamotor, and it would take the aircraft 28 volts, high current, and it would put out your high voltage. You would put out like 400 volts or 160 volts of DC. to power these radios. And that was actually a little DC generator that was actually running to power these things. And of course, a lot of people could remove that and just build a power supply. But here's the guy making use of surplus again. Looks like a receiver, the transmitter. He's using the dynamotor. It looks like he's got him a high power, high current power supply there.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But a dynamotor is really a DC motor driving a DC generator.
Right.
So it made a lot of noise.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Martin, you probably are familiar with this. You may even have one. This is This is an S27. And it says on here that it was built for the FCC. So I don't know if this was built specifically for the FCC or if that's just a tag they put on all of them. But this was sent in by Charles Blythe, and he's restoring this S27. Those are all great receivers back to have, weren't they?
They were. You know, they based a whole series of. There were generations of receivers that was based on that design. And one of my later receivers after that regenerative receiver I had was a Helicrafter S40A, which looks almost like that, but in a more up-to-date modern case. And if you look in that picture, that big knob in the center below the meter, no, that's not a meter. That's a band spread dial.
Oh, is that? Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah. But their tuning knobs were weighted. They had a big weight on the inside where you could just give it a quick twist, and it would just keep spinning and changing frequency, made tuning really smooth.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to talk a little about the old stuff that we started out with, and boy, look at there's some vintage stuff right there. Looks like a Johnson something, and I don't know what the receiver is to it there.
Viking 1, and it looks like a SX100, and the upper left, that's a Helicrafter, and below there it looks like, I'm not sure what that is.
Now, I've never seen this brand before. This is a transmitter. Are you familiar with this, Martin?
Oh, yeah, the Lysco. Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah.
I didn't actually have one, but you could see them in the pictures in the QST magazines back then.
Oh, yeah. And look, you can put a crystal in it, and I guess that's a VFO right there, so that'd be a cool thing to have back then. We got a lot of people talking about, rebuilding, refurbishing. A lot of people are still doing stuff. Look, and some of the stuff is hundreds and hundreds of pounds. This is a T368, and this is the one that someone sent in. Ken Hitchcock sent this picture in, and he's going to restore this in his shack.
Wow, you know, back then, before single sideband. But voice communication on HF bands, AM was used, and they used plate modulation, and the audio power that's needed to fully plate modulate a transmitter at 100% modulation took half the power of the transmitter. Mm-hmm. So it took a lot of power and took a lot of iron to power both of those. So they were big, bulky transmitter, and that was just a transmitter.
Martin, let's talk a little about just some early homebrew projects that would still be good today if a person wanted to build something. You got any thoughts about homebrew projects?
I think everybody ought to get remember back in those days we had tabletop radio, the All-American 5, AC/DC radios that used 5 tubes, and all the filaments were connected in series so they wouldn't have to have a transformer. So I think everyone ought to take the audio output tube, a 50C5 or a 50L6, and one of the rectifier tubes, a 35. I forgot what it is.
35 W4.
W5 W4.
35
Yeah.
W4. Yeah.
Yeah. Put that in series with the 50C5 and add a resistor to drop the voltage down. And well, you need you with just that you could build a power oscillator and get 5 or 10 watts and make some contacts with it. That would be an easy, nice, unsafe product to build.
An unsafe one, right? It would be. You'd be dealing with some I guess lethal voltages there probably with some of those radios.
Yeah.
They were dangerous back then, but we didn't know that much about them.
Only if you didn't plug it in right.
Yeah. Well, you had a 50-50 chance of plugging it in right.
Well, you could tell pretty easily though.
Yeah. Oh,
Just
man.
touch it.
So, Martin, in your early days of building stuff, did you ever get a bad shock?
I did. I was up in the attic of the store. That's where I had my novice station, and I was back behind the home-built transmitter, and power was on, and I touched the high-voltage power line, and it just knocked me back. It was, that only happened one time, though. I learned what to do. When you start dealing with high voltage like that, you want to make sure one hand is behind your back because you don't want any current to pass through both hands and goes across your body and through your heart. You wouldn't last very long like that.
That's true.
So you always kept one hand behind your back.
Well, Martin, I want to tell you something. One project I built, I took a car radio. Back then, they had a vibrator in it, and it would convert to 12 volts through a transformer and step it up and so forth. But I stripped all that out, and I just took a power supply and wired it into this radio, to power it. I made it a console radio, but this power supply, it had a nice big transformer on it, and it had multiple voltages. It had filament voltage. It probably had a low B plus voltage, like 160, and it probably had a 450 volt voltage in it. A typical power supply. And back when I was growing up, 16 years old, we had tile floors in the house, and I was probably barefooted. And I remember one day I picked up that chassis with both hands. I didn't touch a wire. I touched the chassis. I touched the chassis, Martin, and I got a terrible shock. For a split second, I thought I was not going to be able to turn loose of it. But I stepped back enough that my hands did come apart from it, and I took about a 5 or 10 minute walk after that. So that's the only major shock I've got, other than little things like RF burns and stuff like that.
I tell you, you become a real quick learner when you do something like that.
You do. So Martin, what some of the other things that can easily be put together today, and we're going to open the phone lines up in a second if anybody's got any thoughts about some of the easy projects we can do. But a simple SWR meter, it's not any fancy digital thing like we have today. But just a simple forward reflective SWR meter doesn't have but about 3 or 4 parts in it. It is so easy to build.
Well, before the Bruni directional coupler was invented by Bruni, what we were using, or most of the projects that were in the magazines, used a strip line type of directional coupler, which was basically a conductor between the transmitter and the antenna, and then 2 parallel strips to couple the forward and reflected voltage. Mm-hmm. And it was frequency sensitive, so you couldn't really use it to read power unless you had separate scales for each band.
Right.
But you could read SWR on it, and that would have been a nice project to build back then. But there weren't very many SWR meters that we had, because the transmitters were designed with built-in pi networks, and you used a different tuning procedure to tune it up. But you didn't know what the SWR was on your antenna, and you just tune it up based on that tuning procedure, and you hope you got some power into your antenna.
Right. Another thing I thought of, and I built several around here, just remote antenna switches. And you can keep it simple. You don't have to run the power through the coax unless you want to. And that's simple, to use a bias T to send the 12 volts through. But, just some simple some simple switches I built here. Category 5 or Cat 5 wire is just everywhere these days. There's eight pair in there. So I made me a little remote a switch box with 7. It could select 7 different SO239s on it, 1 input and 7 outputs. And with that 8 conductor wire, you could select any one of 8 relays and switch your antenna. It's something like that. It's very easy to do. Let's talk antennas, though, for a minute. And I've got the phone number up. If people would like to try to call in, I'll try to watch the phone line.
Yeah, and I'd like to encourage people to call and share with us some of their early experiences and their radio career, and tell us about some of the projects that they've built.
And guys, let me just mention Dave. Dave is on the sidelines there. Dave, if you want to jump in here at any time on this discussion, please do. I know you've got a lot of experience and probably have experienced a lot of things that we have.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to show this. Up on the shelf there is a Hallicrafters S20R.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know how well it works. This isn't the original one I have, but when I was in junior high school, I had a doting aunt, and she gave me a Hallicrafters S20R. And I heard these people on the air who were all talking to each other, and I wanted to be one of them. Took me about 20 years, but I got there.
All right. Well, it got you started, and that's once you hear it, there's magic there, You
know, Dave, I had the same experience, except what I had was it was basically a crystal radio with 1 transistor as an audio amplifier. And I was laying in bed one night listening to a radio station out of Chicago, and all of a sudden I heard somebody talking. And it turned out to be a ham on 75 meter AM. So same experience, different radio.
You had a really broadband receiver there.
Yeah.
Hey, Martin, let's talk a little about antennas. I've been getting really interested in antennas here, and that's something that anybody can work on and build. Just finding some wire, any kind of wire. Hey, I've even built antennas without insulators before on the ends. I just tie ropes to them, cut them the right length. But let's just talk antennas. Now, you've got a neat antenna you're using there, and let me see if I can pull it up here. I've got a picture here. Basically, it's... what do you call it? Let's see, that's not it. There it is right there. It's extended double ZEP.
Yeah. That's it's built like a dipole, except each leg of the wire is a 5/8 wave length. So it's about 1 1/4 wavelength. So the antenna, I had one early on when I was a novice that I built out of soft drawn copper wire for 20 meters, and it was 90 feet long. And the one that I have up at work that goes into my office is for 40 meters, and it's a 180 feet piece of wire, and it's fed with 450 ohm ladder line that goes into a balanced line tuner. But that antenna would give you 2 to 3 dB of gain over a dipole, and all it is a piece of wire.
Yeah, and there they talk about ladder line, and it says there any length. So I guess the ladder line doesn't really affect the operation of this antenna?
Well, no, you just use it as a transmission line, and the reason for doing that is because the impedance of the feed point is some impedance way different from a purely 50 ohm resistor that you can use coax for. And that the ladder line is just really low loss, and the balance line tuner will efficiently tune that impedance and also convert it from balanced to unbalanced so you connect it to your radio.
Yeah. Well, I've been experimenting with antennas, and as soon as this ice gets away, I'm going to redo my antennas, and I'm looking for just different antennas to try because they're all going to perform a little different, and some are going to go certain distances where others won't. I mean, it's just, you never know, but it's antennas is something that is very easy for people, I think, to construct. There's so many articles out there. One of the most simplest antennas that I really like to use here is a delta loop, and I've got a 40 through 10 meter delta loop up, and it requires no tuner. If you cut it for 40, it'll work 40, it'll work 20. Mine even looks good on 15. It's great on 10, and it's real simple. You can put it between two trees like this. Is the way I have mine, or you can mount it. You can mount it a lot of different ways. Here's a picture here if people are interested. You could put your feed point at the top. You could put it at the bottom. You could put it at the corner of the triangle. You can put it in the side. So, it's got a lot of different ways that you can configure this antenna. And it's so simple to build. Now, how you open and close that loop, it will affect the impedance a little bit. You can see here they're showing anywhere from 150 ohms to 200 ohms. So that would be that's an easy antenna. And hey, you know what? When the Herd Island DXpedition was on last year, nobody could work them. Everybody was complaining. They were on 10 megahertz, and I didn't have an antenna up for them, but I got me a piece of wire real quick. I went outside, strung me up a 10 megahertz antenna. What is that? 30 meters, and I made a contact with Herd Island, and just temporary antenna just stuck up out there. So I think antennas is a good place for people to start that are just getting into radio.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's one of the few things that's not so complicated to do anymore.
And I guess antenna theory, I don't know that it's changed a lot. I guess it's been updated, but a lot of these antennas are still antennas that were used back then. But, I don't remember, a neat antenna is that off-center fed antenna. I don't remember that when I was a novice, Martin. Did you know much about the off-center fed back in the 60s?
Well, the one I remembered was, I forgot what it was called, but it was a wire that was fed about a third of the way from one end, and it used a single wire for the transmission line. Not a coax cable or a ladder line, but just one piece of wire.
Well, that
you
may have
remember
been
that day.
That may have been the true Carolina Wyndham.
Oh, I have to admit, when I got my novice license, my parents told me that my graduation present from college, they'd get me a Heathkit HW16, and I talked them into a high gain 14 AVQ and the VFO kit. So, because my parents had no idea what this stuff was supposed to cost.
Yeah.
So I have to admit, I started with a store-bought antenna.
Dave, I had a 14 AVQ that I bought when I was a junior in college, and didn't have an SWR meter. and I never could. I never knew when that thing was adjusted right. And 50 years later, we're still making the same antenna at high gain.
It was a great antenna.
Yeah,
Put up a few
yeah.
radials and put it up on the chimney and proceeded to DX for me was from Southern California to Northern California.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
I
DX.
understand.
Hey, DX for me was the Bahamas. You know, from the Memphis area. Yeah, man, when I got somebody out of the country like Bahamas, boy, that was DX back then.
And any contact I made was DX for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, let's see, Martin. Anything else? Anything else you can tell our viewers out there about the fun of ham radio? You're still having fun with ham radio after almost 60 years of being in the field.
Well, my thing about ham radio was not so much about operating, but just about building stuff, just about learning the technical part and just building projects and just experimenting with things. And as a kid, I remember the stuff that I was building. Tubes were too hard. You had to have a power supply and had to mount it on a chassis, and you had to wire it all up. So I started really early in transistors, and and I'm sure you remember the first transistor that was cheap enough for us to buy was a Raytheon CK722. It was a germanium transistor, and I think the first one was like $7. That was a lot of money back in the 50s. Do y'all remember those transistors?
I think I do. I also remembering there was this radio type store back then, and they used to sell a lot of parts, and they used to have a bunch of unmarked transistors, but they were floor sweepings. I think there were a lot of bad ones in there in the early days. I think, is there somebody on the phone?
Yeah, you got Mike, NX2U here, Tom. How you doing?
Hey, Mike, I forgot to watch the phone line over there. I hope, I didn't miss a bunch of calls.
That's all right.
NX2U, Mike in Kyle Ford, Tennessee.
Yep, we were talking about antennas, you and I, on the air the other day. I strung 300 feet of aluminum wire. I've got a big spool that I use for my electric fence. I ran 300 feet of it at 4 feet off the ground. I put insulators on all the T-posts, and it works. It works.
Let me ask you, I'm sure we'll make a good receive antenna. Have you tried it with any type matching for transmit?
Yes, I found an old Johnson air variables. So I just took a 1.5-inch piece of PVC, wrapped 16 turns of 12 gauge wire around it, put taps on it, and I'm able to load this thing up. I had my one of my Swan 350s running. Now it's only good for close in because all the T-posts act as a ground, and there's 5 strands of barbed wire directly underneath the driven element. So that acts as my ground. So all my signal is going straight up. So everything I get is in close, but it works on both receive and transmit. And now I'm going to work on putting another 300-foot line up from the house to the barn, and that'll be about 40 feet off the ground. So I'm curious to see how that works. My only question, and Martin may be able to answer this, is what do I use as a matching coil, a balun? I will be using my metal roof on the house as actually the ground plane. If Martin could give me an idea what to use for a balun.
Well, that's really an unbalanced antenna, so you really don't need a balun. What you really need to do is to be able to, at that feed point, transform whatever impedance it turns out to be to 50 ohms. In other words, give you an SWR something close or at least under 2 to 1 so you can get some power into it. And you can do that with that tuner that you built up. But wasn't that a fun experience to build a tuner from something that you already had?
Oh yeah, I found it. It was an old rack from W3DA or K3DA. George Grohl, who's probably been a silent key for 10 years. I've had it sitting in a rack in the corner of the basement for 15 years, and I just happened to pull it out, and I says, let me go with it. What do I have to lose? I didn't want to put one of my good tuners, one of my MFJs on here. I didn't want to blow it up. I wanted to keep them in line, so I figured let me build something and play with it. I've got more of your MFJ tuners than I know what to do with.
Well, that's great to hear, Mike. I appreciate that.
Dave,
well,
Dave, have you played with any just really long wire antennas?
I've never had the real estate to do that, actually. I grew up in a city lot, and now the antennas that I put up are ones that come from MFJ.
Yeah, I guess this wire, we're talking 300, 400, 500 feet. I guess that would be considered a beverage antenna, and there's probably a lot of information if you just look up, Mike, look up a beverage antenna. It might give you some hints on matching that down to, a low impedance.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking of adding wire to it, Tom. I can literally add miles of wire because with 70 acres and everything is fenced, the whole perimeter is fenced, plus cross fencing, I could literally turn this farm into one big antenna. But I don't know if it would be worth doing all that, if it would actually increase anything. I figure at 300 feet, how much more wire do I really need?
Well, now, if you get the one that's 40 feet in the air, in that long wire, it's going to be quite directional in the direction of the wire. And you can look in the handbook and other things. If you put a long wire out like that, it's like a sort of a shotgun kind of antenna.
Well, to add to that, Dave, Mike, you might want to consider taking 2 pieces of wire and making a V-beam, and you can get some pretty good gain, but that would be pretty highly directional.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the long wire that'll be up at 40 feet will be pointed due north, so I should be able to get some hopping over the poles with that into Asia. So that should be interesting.
It would definitely be good around Christmas time.
Oh, yeah, I can knock Santa Claus right out of the air.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you, gentlemen, for the information. I'm going to look up that on the beverage antenna, and I will keep you abreast of what happens with it, Tom, and hopefully I'll catch you on 40 meters this week.
Yeah,
thanks for taking my call. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. And
thanks for calling, Mike.
All right, so the phone line's open, 901-286-1116. Phone line is open. Give us a call. I forgot to watch the phone. I bet we had a few calls that we missed. All right, well.
Let me ask Dave something. Has Richard talked to you about that new Zygu 5105 transceiver?
No. Which is this? 5105?
It's a DSP transceiver from China that we're the exclusive distributor for. It's got a built-in antenna tuner. It's got a built-in battery pack. It's a pretty neat transceiver. It's handheld size. It's much like the KX3, and it sells for like $679. The whole package with everything included in it.
Mm-hmm. No, I haven't talked to anybody about that. That sounds very interesting.
Well, let me mention that to Richard tomorrow. 5 watts.
So, Martin, when are you going to start having those on the market? Is it already
Oh,
out there?
it's on the market now.
Okay.
We've sold a number of those.
All right, cool. All right, 901-286-1116. Anybody else out there? All right, well, guys, it's after 9 o'clock. It's 9:06 here where I live, so I guess we probably should go ahead and end this segment. We wanted to talk a little bit with Dave about the Micro-BITX. I know there's probably people that have tuned in to see what Dave is going to say tonight. Martin, we really appreciate you being on the show with us tonight again, and you're welcome, and hopefully you'll be on here every night with us and share your knowledge and skills with us.
Well, I always enjoy being on the show and visiting with you and Dave and everyone that calls in, and I may hang around and listen and watch what Dave has to say about that neat little radio he
Okay, well, that's
built
cool.
up.
All right, well, Martin, and just jump in anytime if you have questions about it. And guys, let's take a 1 minute break here, and we'll be back in about a minute. Happy New Year's from ICOM. Start out the new year with a bang with one of ICOM's new available products. Communications had never been so much fun. The new ICOM IC7610 is a direct sampling software-defined radio that will change the world's definition of an SDR transceiver. It has RF direct sampling system, 110 dB RMDR, independent dual receiver, and a dual digiselect. A new D-Star communication device is here. The ID31A Plus is easy to operate and is available in silver, red, or gold. It provides worldwide digital communications. You can share pictures and text messages, and it's IPX7 waterproof, compact, lightweight, and tough. Visit www.icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on ICOM radios. All right, we're back, and it looks like Martin's disappeared. All I see is his couch.
I went to get a refill.
All right, well, we're going to put Dave on anyway here. Dave, let's talk. A couple of weeks ago, we had, I don't know, it wasn't a show that we had it was a show we had Farhan on, I guess, and you had learned something about the radio that you made some comments about, and everybody has their own thoughts about things, and there were some that were bad mouthing you, and some I think were supporting you. So I don't know. I mean, ham radio is for fun, right? So,
well, it is, and of course, anything that's controversial attracts viewers. It's the old saw that any publicity is good publicity, because I've had over 7,000 views on that video.
Yeah.
But I noted when we had Farhan on, he mentioned that it would transmit on all frequencies. And I kind of captured in my mind the expression on your face. I think that gave you pause. We didn't pursue it. Went on to other things. Farhan's justification for it being a general coverage transmitter is that there are a lot of experimenters around the world who might not have very much equipment, and the radio can act as a signal generator on the HF bands, which of course is true, it can. My objection was I didn't think it was a good idea to widely disseminate a radio that could transmit anywhere in the HF bands. I don't have an issue with, like a little QRP single band rig or something like that. That's a little hard to abuse. But when you've got an AM, or I'm sorry, not AM, a single sideband /CW radio that can transmit anywhere from 3 to 30 megahertz, it seems to me that that's not a good idea to make such a thing and spread it all over everywhere. it would not pass type acceptance in the United States, I'm sure. Now, the people who disagreed with me, I would put into the libertarian camp. They don't want regulations restricting them in any way. And, and then there was another guy who was supporting me who said, he thought I gave it an honest review, talked about the good parts, the bad parts, and then, stated my opinion that something like that ought to be locked down a little bit more. So I was a little taken aback at the vociferousness of the disagreements. People treated it like the end of the world, and I'm going, come on, guys, you just don't need to do that. But I still remain of the opinion that it would take a very simple software change to keep it from broadcasting outside the ham bands. And if people were smart enough to go in and figure out how to modify that software, well, so be it. But I would say probably 90% of the Micro-BITX radios that are used will never see their software changed. And so I don't know. I'm kind of curious what you think about this. I expressed my opinion. I fully recognize there are other opinions. I did not delete them from the comment stream on my YouTube channel. So what do you think?
Well, hey, I think that there are two sides to every story, and half the people are going to be on one side and half the people are going to be on the other side. So I don't know. Us as hams, we have the I'll say ability or capabilities and maybe experience to build anything we want, and that's what ham radio is about, experimenting. So there's nothing to keep us from building a ham radio that will cover even general coverage spots, but it's incumbent upon us, of course, not to transmit in those areas. So I think a lot has to do with with the law, and know what you need to do, know what you don't need to do, and just kind of follow the law there. I think some comments were made about things like the Bofang radios and stuff. They transmit out of band. I'm not real familiar with them. I don't know if they come already open up to transmit out of the band, but
they do.
They do. I know it would be simple to go in there and program them to do anything. And of course, a lot of people program their HF rigs to do Mars and things like that, which basically they just open up the radio to operate out of band. So they've got a reason for operating out of band. But they still have to stay within the law. So I think that's what we're going to have to fall back on. It's just, if somebody causes, intentional interference or causes problems, I think we all need to get together and go find them and lock them up. I don't know.
Well, my concern is not hams like you, me, and Martin. We've been around for a while. And we know the consequences of interfering with, emergency services and things like that. Mm-hmm. But there are an awful lot of hams. Figure out what, there's 800,000 some odd hams. And then you look at the membership in the ARRL, which probably represents most of the active hams. It's only 130,000. I think there are a lot of hams out there who don't know, and maybe even some who don't care. And that's what I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about somebody going in and modifying the rig, because if you're smart enough to do that, you're smart enough to know to stay within the law. I mean, all the exams talk about emitting outside the band. What I'm concerned about is it's sort of like a child. You don't give a gun to a child and load it with ammunition. You've got to train this child so the child doesn't go out and shoot its little brother. Something there's got to be some experience involved, some kind of mechanism.
Yeah. I think it goes back to the individual responsibility. You know, you're talking like a gun. I mean, guns don't kill people. It's the people that pull the trigger, you know. So I think it's the same thing on the radio. So I think those radios aren't going to harm anybody, but if you got a bunch of bad people out there that want to use it, you've kind of enabled them to use it. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. But Martin, are you following this conversation, Martin?
Well, I am, and I think I think these radios ought to stay within the law. I mean, all of us have to. Whenever we build a piece of equipment, we have to make sure it's legal. And if you get a radio like that, that's it could cause all kind of problems. There's reasons for having these laws.
Yeah, and I think we're probably all pretty much law-abiding citizens. This is not a great example, but let's say you have a general license. I mean, any radio you buy, you're going to be able to transmit in the extra band. But the bottom line is you're still in the ham band, and you're going to be policed based on ham law, the ham regulations. So I don't know. It could be a big deal. It could be, I guess. And then it might not be. I just have, kind of mixed feelings about it.
Well, I think everybody has mixed feelings about it. I mean, I'm certainly not going to go find an aviation frequency to jam. But, I'm kind of more like Martin. He is well aware of what the regulations are because he sells all kinds of equipment, lots of radios and so on, and amplifiers and all that good stuff, and there's lots of regulations. I'm kind of curious when Riley is next on, what his take would be on this.
We'll definitely ask Riley there. I think he's going to be on February the 6th. I don't know if that's a Tuesday, somewhere around February 6th. Riley will be back with us. And this would be a good thing to ask Riley because he was the special counsel to enforce, the ham radio bans. But surely he would have a position on other, non-ham ban type operation.
Yeah, I remember when he first came in, there was a lot of concern about people who had licenses but were misusing them badly. Like on 4313, there was some stuff where a lot of repeaters would get constant jamming and so on. And you say, well, it's up to the person to exercise proper judgment. The problem is that one bad apple can really create a lot of problems for a lot of people. And so, when Riley came in and started enforcing things, boy, there were a lot of people who were extremely happy he was here.
And it takes a long time to enforce things. I mean, there's a ham out in California that's been causing trouble for 10 years. The FCC's been trying to shut him down for about 10 years, and I think he's a lawyer, and he keeps going back to court, and with various things that cause the court to delay, and it's been going on about 10 years. I think Riley might even talk about that next time, but oh man, it's I don't know if the guy I'm talking about is a bad guy, but if you've ever listened on 7200, that's pretty bad out there. In my videos explaining the 20-meter band, I've told my listeners or my viewers, just don't go above 14,300. Just don't go there. Yeah.
It's not the aggravation.
There's a guy on from Tennessee, and I hear him on there every night. He runs a lot of power, sounds loud, and he'll put his phone number out and ask for call-in, shortwave listeners to call in. And then he'll call bars downtown. He'll call bars and ask them how they're doing down there, and he'll put them on the air. What do you think about that?
I think he's a frustrated far right-wing commentator.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, you know, in this day and time, a lot of people have strong opinions on both sides of the spectrum, and there are going to be a lot of opinions like that even on this subject. And I think everybody just needs to respect everybody's opinion and not get into a big fight over it. And let's just make the ham bands better, you know.
Yeah, I think so. And, you know, I really like what Farhan did. He opened up a lot of things. I really, you know, he talks about his market being experimenters and people who like to dig into things and change them and so on. And certainly that is a market. But I think another market is the market for the brand new general who, you know, is saving his money for his ICOM 7300 and in the meantime would like to get on the air. Mm-hmm. And, you know, here's a radio for $100 that will allow a person, you know, granted it's 5 or 10 watts, but it's very similar to the market that Martin is addressing with that Chinese radio, although it sounds like that Chinese radio is a lot more sophisticated. The BITX 40 is, or I'm sorry, the Micro-BITX is not a terribly sophisticated radio, but I was really surprised by the audio quality.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a fun little thing.
I can't wait to get started on mine. Here it is, guys. There it is. I just need to find me a box to put it in. This is what we're talking about tonight. This is a $100 radio. It's an all band, all HF band, single sideband CW 10-watt radio for $100. All you gotta do is put it in a box, and drill the holes and put the volume control. That all comes with the kit, the volume control and the tuning control, and put 12 volts to it. If you want to run higher power, put 24 volts to it, and it's a neat kit. And there, Dave's got his there.
It's on a cake pan.
Yeah.
And it works great. Had to persuade my wife to give this to me, but you know, I think I'm just going to leave it like this. I'm not going to try putting it in something else. The BITX 40, I did put it in an enclosure, and the problem I had with the enclosure problem, since no enclosure is provided, if people can get inexpensive enclosures, that's great. But most hams do not have the equipment to drill holes, cut out rectangles, and things like that.
Uh-huh.
And that's why I think it would be, you know, you'd expand the market just by offering a cabinet. From what I understand, comments that I have gotten back in my videos, there are people doing that around the world.
There are people that are actually in 3D printers printing the cabinets out. But I just got a note this week. There is a guy in India that's going to start commercially selling the cases for this. So I think they're metal cases. So there's a market out there, and people are starting to do it. Here's one of the BITX 40s I built. And if you look at this, there's the digital readout right there, tuning volume. And if you look at this, this is just an old Dish TV case.
Oh, really?
An old Dish TV case that, you know, they tell you just to throw in a junkyard when you get through with it. And I built 2 of these. So I just took the cover off, took all the Dish TV stuff out, and put the Micro-BITX in there. Let's see if I can show this. You know, just put the Micro-BITX inside the box and your power supply and different things. And but again, you have to drill holes, and my problem is I can't ever get them straight. You know, they're always off center.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I am terrible with my hands. If I had to pound nails for a living, I'd starve. I can't do it. This one I was very careful with the drill press to try and get those holes lined up. They're not perfect, but for me that's pretty good. So I don't know.
Well, you know, people are building
Mark,
that in.
Maybe here's something you could do if you offered pre-cut chassis for these things for $49.
Yeah,
I bet a lot of people take you up.
I would love to do that. Where do you order one of those?
Go to hfsignals.com.
Yeah, and Martin, I sent Farhan. Farhan is the developer of this. I sent Farhan an email last week to asking him to get in touch with you. You know, we had talked a little about it, so maybe Farhan will contact you.
Okay, no, that would be great. I would love to do that.
But you know, the thing about the case, the thing about this is this radio, it's a basic radio, and it's Arduino, so all the code is pretty much public. You can download it. Everybody's making changes to it. You can download it and load it on here, and you'll have their changes. And but you know, you kind of customize what you want it to do. You know. You drill if you want, you know, to put a CW in there. You put your CW jack on there. You put your mic jack on there, or on this one we built the BITX 40. We built the software and loaded it to have an S meter, and we put an S meter right here on the display where it says the frequency. It also says S units here, and it will actually show S units as received. So it's made to experiment with and hack. Try your own software, make changes. It's really a very stable, good sounding radio, and it's already built. Except he sends you the box of the other parts, the volume control and the jacks and the wires, and all you have to do is just hook those. You know, hook the pot to the board, hook the encoder control to the board, put your 12-volt jack on the back, you know, and, you know, whatever you want to do. If you want to put your filter cap in there, and if you want to put your diode in there for protection and stuff like that, you just do whatever you want to with it.
You know, when we were talking with Ryan, remember Ryan?
Uh-huh.
Trying to remember his
Ryan
call.
Flowers? Yep.
We talked about the concept of a finishing kit.
Mm-hmm.
That you know, I mean, the thing is designed right now for an experimenter to have fun with. If you're not so much of an experimenter, which I'm not, a finishing kit would include a cabinet and with all the holes drilled and any extra little doodads like a microphone, maybe a little better microphone or something like that, a speaker.
Yeah.
And you know, there are a lot. I think that would really increase the market for the BITX, because then a lot of people who are really not experimenters at heart but don't mind building a kit could take those and that finishing kit and put the two together and quite easily get on the air.
Well, you know, what Farhan's doing here, again, this is for the experimenter and the builder, and he's trying to hold the cost down. If he gets the cost up there too high, he's not going to get the radio out there. The Micro-BITX 40. I'm sorry, the BITX 40, which I built two of them here. I think they sold for $49, and that included the shipping from India. And it took about 3 weeks.
Yeah, India Post. The $49 was the pre-Arduino.
Oh, that's true. That's true. It was the pre, and what we did, we put our own Arduino on here, and then he came out with the Arduino VFO on here. What did that, Dave? Did that go up to like about $79 or something?
No,
59 or
much.
69?
Into the 50s.
Yeah, it wasn't
like
much.
$56.
It wasn't much. So the problem they're running into is the weight of this thing, and this is right under. It comes in this box with all the parts in there, and the weight of this is, like a half ounce under where the shipping charges were going to go just astronomical. So he's trying to hold the cost down. I think if you sold the whole thing with speakers and cases and all kinds of stuff.
Well, I recognize that if you were to provide a complete kit, it would do that. So I'm not talking about Farhan supplying the finishing kit. I'm talking about somebody like Martin or some other entrepreneur in the United States providing the finishing kit. So you've got your group of people who want the $100 radio. Fine, they have their $100 radio, they can do it. But somebody who'd like to spend another $50, because not really experimenters, they're kit builders, but they're not experimenters. They would have a source to go there, and they get the two, put them together. It's like putting a kit together. I think that would really broaden the market beyond what it is right now, which is just experimenters.
Well, I think that would work. The case would work, but it would have to be kind of a standard case. It fits this radio with maybe no changes to it. And that's the way I'm going to operate that radio. I'm just going to operate it as is with the software as is, and not change it. Martin has got a great place. I've gone down there on a couple occasions and visited all the different shops Martin's got, and he's got the metal shop. And boy, I tell you, 80-ton presses and brakes and drill presses and benders, and it's all computerized down there. So, if Martin needs to make some MFJ antenna analyzers, they just put in the they put in the computer the model number, and it sets everything up, and it'll punch out that metal for that particular device, and then he takes it over, and they've got a bending machine. It bends it, and they've got the silk screen that they put all the writing on there. It'd be easy for Martin to maybe do a box or something, and maybe Farhan and Martin will get together.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: does it meet all the FCC specs?
No, this is what we were talking about. The radio as it stands has no limitation on the frequency it can transmit on. It can transmit anywhere on HF. So it would not pass type acceptance. So what I'm talking about is Farhan supplies the radios, great, wait from India for a couple weeks. But if they could buy a finishing kit, that had the rest of the stuff, like a little speaker and a little microphone and the case to put it all in and stuff like that, then people could put the two together, and it wouldn't require somebody who's a genius at metalwork to do that. Like, one of my viewers sent me a case that he had made for the BITX 40, and I was unable to do anything with it until I got a bigger drill press that it would fit in.
Glenn,
well, what we could do is to go one step further and mount all the stuff on it. The speaker and whatever else had the jacks or the pots or whatever, and they just have to wire it up.
Yeah,
that's a possibility. We may be, Tom, we may be present at the inception of a good idea.
We might be. Glenn Popeil, KW5GP, the author of Arduino for Ham Radio and also Mesh Networks, is a friend of ours. He's in the chat room. And he says there's already a finishing kit out there for $25, a nice aluminum case, and even a plexiglass front cover for the LCD.
And I'd like a link.
I'm not sure where that is, but it's out there. Somebody's got it. So I think that's a problem. There are probably people that maybe are trying to do this or just don't know how to advertise it.
Yeah. Well, interesting discussion.
Yeah. All right, well, guys, it's 9:35. We've kept Martin up late. Martin, you're at home tonight. We'll have to drive home, right?
Oops,
Be home.
your audio's breaking up here.
Yeah, here too.
All right.
Tom, if you're there,
I'm here.
we're having trouble hearing
I'm
you.
here. All right, you hear me now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've got some batteries that are going bad that I need to replace, the NiCads. So anyway, I just changed microphones there. Okay, guys, Martin, thanks for sticking with us. It's late, but you're already home. So see, you don't have to drive home.
Well, that's true. I like it at home instead of in my co-office.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for joining us tonight, and looking forward to seeing you next week. And
Okay, it was good to see both of y'all.
yeah, and Martin, I'm gonna drive down and see you again when it's ice and snow melts.
Okay.
Or I'll come down here. I'll buy you lunch this time. You bought it the last time.
Dave, you come see us too.
I would love to do that, believe me, but it's a bit of a drive from Colorado.
All right, guys. Good night. We'll see you.
Okay.
Good night.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Well, interesting show tonight. We're glad you joined us. If you're new to the show, please join our Facebook group. It's up at the top of the menu there. It says Facebook, Twitter. Join it. We'd love to have you. We've got about 63 or 6,400 people in our group now. It's just a ham radio group. You can post pictures. Post your shack pictures in the group, and we'll put them on the show one of the following weeks. Also, post your questions there for Ask Riley. Riley Hollingsworth is the special, he's retired now, but he was the special counsel to the FCC and was involved in all the enforcement of all the bad guys that were out there. So I think Riley can get you an answer if you've got a question there. If you're listening on WBCQ out of Monticello, Maine on 5130, we thank you for joining us on shortwave tonight. And if you are still listening, send us an email. I'd like to hear from you, signal reports. You can send that to tom@w5kub.com, tom@w5kub.com. We'd love to hear from you. We'll send you a card back if you send us a card. Guys, we're looking for any new topics. If any of you guys out there have any interesting things you'd like to see on the show, let us know. But I think our team is really coming together well this year with Riley and Dave and Katie. Katie's outstanding. She's opening the show now, and I'm trying to get it where I don't even have to be here. So that's my goal. I'd like to go to North Carolina maybe 1 or 2 weeks and not have to be here for the show. Let's do Hangout. I think there may be a few people that want to get on Hangout, so I'll open up Hangout and we'll see if anybody is out there. We'll stay a little while. Let me bring it up. Hangout. There we go. Well, it says I'm the first to join Hangout. There's the link. People just put the link in there. And we will see if anybody wants to join us there. Glenn Popiel, thanks for watching tonight. Hope your books are going good. Need to have you on the show again soon. All right, we got a few people on here. What in the world is going on here? What do we got here? We've got Teresa. Is that you? Is that Teresa? Why are you so bundled up there? What's going on?
Hello.
Hello.
Last I saw it was 20 some odd degrees, and I'm a South Texas girl, and I'm not used to it being this cold.
You don't have heat there?
We do, but it's not the world's best. And the little heater that I've got sitting behind me sits at 65 and can't quite hold the temp.
Oh wow. Yeah, 65 is kind of cool, particularly when it's getting cold. Now, do you have any ice or snow down there? We got it here.
No, actually, all of our snow skipped us here in the DFW area and hit Houston.
Okay.
Go figure.
Yeah, well, we had ice 2 days ago, and then we've got a couple inches of snow last night. So it's real wintry out there. Oh, let's see. Well, I see. I see. Is that Craig in there? Craig, is that you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, there's Craig in there. Over in over.
Do I have that other window shut tonight? I believe so.
Yeah, you doing good there. I see Douglas in there. I see Bill's in there. So we got a few joining us tonight. Well, Teresa, this is what you need. Let me find it here. This is what you need. Having trouble finding it. That's going to show
How's
you. It's going to show you what you need for. Here we go. Here's what you need. This is what you need to do at home right tonight if you're cold. You need, just you got to kind of watch it though, because it can get a little out of control there. But I'll tell you guys, this is Memphis right here. This is it. That's what it looks like out my window right here.
Yeah, I got up about 10 o'clock last night to let the dogs out, and we had about 10 snowflakes on the ground, and that was all that we got.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Well, be fortunate you only got 12 snowflakes. What would you have done if it was knee-high to a grasshopper?
Well, right now, mine is knee-high. Mine is over a grasshopper's head. I can tell you that right now. So
I know y'all don't. I know y'all say you don't get more than maybe a half an inch or an inch at the most. I mean, what would you do with a foot or 48 inches of snow? What would y'all do with that?
Tell you, that would be the end of the world. Believe me,
No, that.
You can't.
I mean, with as little as Houston got, everything shut down.
Well, they got 48 inches of snow. I think it was like January 1978. They called it the blizzard of 78 up here in New England. And I mean, the amount of snow that they had come in so quick that they didn't have time to get rid of it all. And it just tied everything up for weeks upon weeks, and they had to bring in the National Guard to help clear the roads, and I mean, all travel and whatever in and out of there was at a standstill for.
Well, I saw
a very long time.
A year or two ago, they were hauling the snow out of town on dump trucks. So I don't know.
They dump it in the Mississippi?
No, I was talking about up there, up in the north. They don't do that down here.
We tried to dump it in the ocean there, but I mean, we got caught by the EPA people.
When it gets that deep, when it gets like an inch and a half, 2 inches, the dump trucks aren't gonna drive, man.
Yeah.
We got about an inch and a half, 2 inches here or something like that.
Yeah, I saw somebody on here. Who was that making a snowball? Was that Craig? Somebody made a snowball, I thought.
Hey, did Mackinac get any snow up there, Mike?
Oh, we got snow up in Marquette here. We got that back. I don't know what our total is so far right now, but it's It's after, I mean, I had the snow blower already getting it clear the driveway today, so I just write these guys down so they don't know what a snow blower is.
All right. Now we got we got Jim out there. Jim, I forget where you are. You're out west somewhere. Who's that? Who's that? Oh, wait a minute. That's what was going on?
Heck is that?
Hang on.
Somebody Skype.
Hello. Hello. Who's on the phone?
Well,
Who's on the phone?
Yeah, talking about
Go ahead.
6 inches of
Let's
snow.
see.
No, that's
Let's see.
disgusting.
Let me see. Hang on a minute. Let's see who's on the phone. Hello. Who is on the phone? Over. We're gonna.
I don't know. While Tom's messing with that, I don't know how
Yeah,
well
we're
this
gonna
is going to
kill him.
show. But that right there is all of the snow that we got last night.
Where is it? You gotta get a magnifying glass out to see that thing?
Exactly.
What am I looking at there? Man.
Well, I have to send Teresa. I'll have to send you some pictures of what I have to deal with out in front of my house. I mean, you know, when it gets up to beyond, when it gets up beyond your nose, then you don't worry.
Yeah.
Let's try this
Part of
again.
the reason I was looking forward to moving up to the DFW area was because, about once a year we get about a half inch of snow up here, give or take. And twice so far this winter season, it has skipped the DFW area and hit Houston.
All right. Who's on the phone?
Okay, it's David, KB9SU1.
Give me the call again, Kevin. No.
David,
David.
KB9SY.
KB9SY.
KB9 Sierra Golf Yankee.
Sierra Golf Yankee. David. Okay. Hey, David. How you doing, man?
Oh, good. Yeah, I have a question. What you just said tonight on the show.
Yeah. What's your question?
Okay. Yeah, my thing, what you just said, talked about tonight on the show. I have a bull thing, and I recognize, yeah, you can transmit on the non-amateur radio band too. And yeah, I don't know if I like that idea, or I don't know. You guys were talking about that tonight a little bit.
You know, like we were saying on the show, I think there's two sides, two different opinions. So, people are going to be strong on both sides. I think it's just going to, regardless of what side you're on, I think it's going to come down to the enforcement. And if you're doing something bad, you probably need to be, be charged with breaking the law, probably.
Yeah,
Right,
well,
yeah,
you know,
I know, but I don't know why those bull things are made where you can transmit all over. That's silly, but yeah.
what I would suggest you do, sir, is get yourself a band plan. They tell them at HRO or they, whatever. You want to make sure that when you program your radio that you are not working out of the 2 meter 440
Band.
1.2 meter band there, and I mean if you want to work up in the gigahertz and whatever, I mean just make sure that you're within the band plan. I mean, I've been a ham since 1981. Okay, and the first thing that my Elmer told me, he says, you have a band plan. You are a novice. You are only allowed this portion of the 20 meter band, 40 meter band, 80 meter band, 15 meter band, and 10 meters. He says, you don't do anything on 20 until you upgrade to general. So that was something that I wanted to do. All right, I wanted to get on the high frequency, and I wanted to talk. So I had to go through technician, and I had to get general, and I mean, you had to do Morse code at 13 words a minute. I mean, you got to do something. You got to follow the rules. And I mean, if
Well,
you
yeah,
don't follow the
yeah,
rules,
you do.
I mean,
You
you're going to
have
get
follow
yourself a
the
pink
rules
ticket.
and,
And I'll tell you, they'll slam you hard.
Yeah, but let me make this statement here, boy. If they outlaw bofang's, only the outlaws are going to have bofangs.
yeah.
That's what they need
I
to do.
don't know. I'm surprised it was like that.
I don't know. The definition of, to me, the definition of amateur radio is experimentation. So, I mean, I have a commercial license. You follow the rules. We're allowed to experiment. Do we really want to punish people ahead of time by, going after kits that, so they're open. There are so many bofangs in this area here, and I never hear of any complaints. In fact, I've got a handful of them in here. This was my entry into amateur radio. Commercial license from way back. A brand new ham just a little over a year. This is the way most people were able to get into this.
Yeah.
My entry into HF was the radio in question here, the wide open general coverage receiver BITX, or BITX, whatever you want to call it. And so, to me, the definition of amateur radio is experimentation. We shut that down. We'd have to throttle almost everything sold as a kid.
Right.
That 2 cents.
Well, you have to understand though, the merchandise that is currently sold in the continental United States that comes in from Japan, it is regulated such that it does not go outside the band.
And I can
understand. I mean, you can cut a wire if you are a member of the Mars, okay, and specifically for Mars, okay. They shouldn't be any reason that you're outside the band.
Yeah, I can understand this not being allowed to be sold in the country.
That's been a China.
The bofangs. I can understand that. This is a radio, so this should meet all of the specs. But as far as the BITX, I mean, it's a kit.
Another interesting point about this is you have CBers that buy this ham equipment, the ham amplifiers. I bought an AL80B here, a kilowatt amplifier. It didn't have 10 meters on it. I'm a ham and I'm allowed to operate 10 meters, but it didn't come with 10 meters. You could make the mod for it. And all the mod is you cut one little green wire that shorts out a coil. You cut one wire and you're on 10 meters and 11 meters. So if you look on YouTube, there are so many CBers that are showing their kilowatt amplifiers and there's one guy on there that, he's got his 5-watt radio and then he goes into like a 90-watt amplifier and then he goes from there into an Ameritron AL 572. And I don't know, guys, just, we're just going to have to let enforcement take care of this. If you break the law, you have to pay the consequences.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, if you buy a Kenwood easel or an icon, they can't transmit out of the ham radio bands. I know that.
Well, they can if you remove one little diode.
They can if you do it.
Yeah, there are modifications on the Kenwoods and the Icons. You just cut one little wire and it'll take it out of band. So you can put them out of band too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know. But I mean, that was the first radio I owned.
Yeah.
I still have it, and I use it sometimes, and
Yeah.
And I love your show. I like watching your show on YouTube.
All right, we got some noise coming in. It may be on the phone. David, thanks for calling in.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We still got it. I'm trying to see who it's coming from.
I don't know. I don't know what it's from.
I'm looking. I'm going to catch him in a minute.
There we go.
All right. Well, guys, it's 10 o'clock. I think I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for watching tonight. You guys stay and hang out and carry on.
Good night to y'all.
You've got the frequency all night.
Get ready to go out and shovel here in a little while, so
yeah.
I need to get to bed.
Yeah, I've shoveled twice already today, this morning and then again this evening, so probably have to do it again tomorrow. Yeah, Mike, more than 2 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to head out too. Got a presentation at a local club on Thursday and a soldering class on Saturday at Radio Shack. So got a busy ham week this week.
At a Radio Shack? Holy wow.
Yeah, we got a soldering class. Got 6 people signed up this weekend for.
Well, just to have a Radio Shack.
Oh, we have a ton of them in this area. We have I deal with 4 of them, but within about 60 miles, there's another 2. So we have about half a dozen of them in this area.
We've lost all ours here.
And the one that we had in Weatherford closed, I think, end of October. And that was the closest one for about an hour and a half's drive.
Oh, wow. Oh, we had them over here. It must be a real unique area. Before all the store closes, excuse me, we probably had within 60 miles of Knoxville, we probably had about a dozen Radio Shack stores.
Yeah, we got one 40 miles. It's a town 40 miles from here, but it's actually a drugstore, Radio Shack, and I don't know, variety.
Hey, hello.
Combined.
I didn't get all the way in today.
Like I say, we're fortunate. The 4 that I deal with, they're actually, they're all now franchise stores. They still have the Radio Shack sign, and they're operating it as such. So it's not a combination. It's not a backroom deal where it's in a appliance store, that kind of thing. And it's been a unique experience. A little maker space in the back room, and they had a spot at the Ham Fest a couple weeks ago and sponsored the builders thing I had going on. So it's been nice, been good. Hopefully we're going to have some radios on the shelf here there soon. Working on that.
All right, guys, I'm out of here. See you next week. Enjoy.
Hey, it's 11 o'clock here, so I think I'm going to do the same thing.
All right, well, y'all stay on here. Y'all got a good group. You got a good group on here.
How cold I'm going to get tonight.
See if you can keep Teresa warm. Y'all got a good group on here. You got the frequency all night. I'll see you later. All right. Well, guys, thanks for joining the show. Very good. Kurt, up in New Jersey, 73. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you later. I'm gonna go get something to eat. Getting hungry here.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.